there's this big misconception that leaders are born. They aren't.
No, they're built.
Leadership is trained.
Mm-hmm.
And a person, regardless of the position that they are in, can be a leader. There's no such thing as leadership by a position. Leadership happens at every level. And
Sure.
if there's a person who feels like they are not ready for the position, I actually find fault with those that are supposed to be guiding them along that route. And it's really the responsibility. There's that word.
Hello and welcome to the HERshyt Show, where we talk about people, places, and things.
Welcome to this week's The HERshyt Show, where I have the honor and privilege of speaking with Mr. Jason Matthews, all the way from Canada. Mr. Matthews, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you got going on with this high-speed organization that everybody needs.
I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I know there was a little bit of logistics going on that made sure to get this happening, and I'm really glad to be here. So thank you so much. As you said, my name is Jason Matthews. I've been a leadership and sales consultant for the past 12 years. And before that, I was in the military. I spent 10 years in the U.S. Army. You said I was from Canada. I live here now. Originally from Massachusetts, and that's where I really got my leadership. I cut my teeth in leadership training was in the Army, and I fell in love with it. It was something that I realized was really important. I'm National Guard, so a lot of the people that I worked with had civilian jobs, and I found that their civilian life influenced greatly their roles in the military, especially leadership. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that when I ended my career, I was part of an MP battalion. And Massachusetts cops are a different breed. They don't necessarily play nice. Yeah. And I had the fortune and misfortune of having one captain who was he was in a staff position where he was in charge of planning, or he was assisting the person in charge of planning, and him and I did not jive very well. I was a first lieutenant, he was a captain, and he felt like he had the right to treat me like I was a subordinate, even though I was the signal staff in that location. Mm-hmm. So him and I didn't jive very well, and when I don't jive with somebody, I become a problem. I'm very good at that, and so I made myself a problem for him. And when I got out, I was basically kind of doing my own thinking about it. Like, there was a lot that I saw that could be improved with leadership, but it's more civilian leadership. Like I said, in the National Guard, there's a lot of civilian behaviors that influence the military way of life. 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. That's all we drilled. Uh-huh. So there was a lot that I saw where the civilian side there was a mismanagement of leadership. And so I did a lot of digging, and I saw that the problem was pretty profound. And even throughout my military career, I've always been in sales. I've been in sales for over 20 years, and leadership was something that I've been doing ever since I was in the military. And I decided to marry the two together because sales is a form of leadership, but the kind of leadership that most people utilize is old world command and control, trying to keep control of things and trying to be the master of all, so to speak, and it doesn't work. And so with my degree in psychology, I realized that there has to be a better way. It's more natural. It feels like you are being empowered rather than being controlled or being micromanaged or feeling like you're just a cog in a wheel. And
nobody likes feeling like somebody's always looking over your shoulder and just pulling strings. So yeah.
Exactly. And what I realized was there is a specific type of leadership that I just kind of fell into called servant leadership. And one of the biggest proponents of that, his name is Ken Blanchard. I took a deep dive into just about everything that he had written about the subject, and then went further on to that. People like Kevin Cashman, Henry Cloud, other big names who dealt with leadership in a way that serves. And what I found is that the best way of leading is to be of service. There's a quote that the founder of Visa had said that control is not leadership, management is not leadership, leadership is leadership. And when you take out the idea of trying to control others, when you take out the premise of wanting to be the one in charge, and instead want to be the one that supports those who are doing the work, be someone that your responsibility outweighs your authority. And leadership is responsibility first. So in military terms, a person who is in charge, whether it be a senior enlisted or an officer, they have a responsibility to do their job, to do a certain job. That responsibility is to ensure that others below them, their subordinates, can also get the job done. Their job is to empower people to get the job done. And if they're not empowering, they're not doing their job effectively. If they're doing anything other than being an agent of empowerment, they are failing at their job. You are a no-go at this station.
Yes.
And it's
Say that again.
if you aren't doing your job, you are a no-go at this station. And it's important to understand that leadership is about empowering others. It's about utilizing your responsibility, the responsibility you have because of your position, to use that as a way of being able to facilitate others of doing their job. And people want to be useful because when they are useful, they feel like they have purpose. In fact, everything that we do is centered around being purposeful, because that is what has allowed human beings to survive for the past 250,000 years. It has been a sense of purpose, a sense of direction that they've had. And when you think about the entire human condition, it is all about survival. Every animal wants to survive, and humans are no exception. And everything that we do, from the conversations that you and I are having, that you have with other people, the way that you relate to others, when you are relating and befriending, or when you are arguing and defending, or when you are withdrawing and shutting down, these are all survival mechanisms, social survival mechanisms.
Yep.
And when you introduce leadership as a concept of being able to maximize your ability to survive, you realize that there are some ideas within leadership that promote the ability for you to empower others and make them feel like they can thrive in an amazing way. And because you help them thrive, they remember you. And so then they want to support you as well. And it becomes the kind of thing where the more people you help, the more help you get in return. And it has to be the kind of help that is not self-serving, that is really given as a service without anything that is expected in return. And this is where the concept of reciprocity comes from. The ability of other people to want to help you simply because you were of service to them. And it is one of the most powerful concepts within leadership, to want to be of service and then to reap the rewards because you are simply of service.
And all of this is not just the military. You took me back to the military when we, before we started recording, we were discussing the military, and we actually did an opposite trade, but from signal corps to the logistics corps, and then yours was different. You went from logistics corps to the signal corps. So it is across the board. And unfortunately, and this is just my opinion from what I experienced and what I witnessed while still serving post 9/11, a lot of people got placed in positions that they were not ready for, and they definitely were not leaders. They held the rank, but they definitely were not leaders. We had to call them sir, we had to call them man, we had to call them senior, or whatever. You had to respect their position, but in no way did many of them get respected as an individual. And in the reserves and in the National Guard, you do have to maintain that civilian aspect with the military aspect. And there were a lot of civilian mentalities in the reserves. I could speak on that side because I got out of active duty and went reserves. And you're speaking from the National Guard perspective, which runs by the state, which is paid for by the state, but the reserves falls under federal regulation, it was an easy transition for me because I already knew the active duty side, right? So, but there were quite a few that just got forced into positions or the rank that they definitely were not ready for. So now, right now that the majority of us have retired, you still have those individuals that don't want to let go of that that power that they feel. And that does go the same for specific positions like police departments, like fire departments, or any government sector. You have people that really weren't qualified in the leadership tactics to take that position, but they knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that, hey, let's go ahead and put them in that position. And now you have people that are quitting. You have that quick turnaround, that forever revolving door, because people don't want to stay on with people like that. It becomes a toxic environment. So, and then is this why you started your business?
Partially. Really, it was more of a selfish endeavor. I wanted to understand why I had a hard time relating to people.
Okay.
That's really the reason why I got into it, because I wanted to be a person who could be relatable.
Okay.
And I realized that I was getting largely ignored, and I hated it. And so I was trying everything I could to find out how I can basically demand people's attention, only to realize that I had no ability to do that. So if I wanted people's attention, I had to be someone worth paying attention to.
Okay.
And that's really why I got into sales and into leadership. In sales, when I first started, I was okay. I was like the average person, and I didn't have a lot of really great training. And as a side note, the problem with leadership is systemic, because it also applies to CEOs, managers, to entrepreneurs, to anyone who has any kind of decision-making capability. They like you said, they hold on to that. And what I found was that the more relatable I became, the more I saw how the way that others were trying to demand attention were also struggling. And I was like, well, this is applying to me. This is probably applying to a lot of other people. And there's probably something here that I could really use or show a value.
Yeah.
So that's when I went into the deep dive of what really is leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? And something I want to talk about, I want to address that you had said that people were forced into positions. There's this big misconception that leaders are born. They aren't.
They're built.
Leadership is trained. And a person, regardless of the position that they are in, can be a leader. There is no such thing as leadership by a position. Leadership happens at every level. And if there's a person who feels like they are not ready for the position, I actually find fault with those that are supposed to be guiding them along that route. And it's really the responsibility, there's that word again, the responsibility of those who are above the subordinate who is now being promoted, to train and guide them and say, this is how you lead. You coach the would-be leader, but it requires that coach to also have been coached. So it becomes this kind of thing where mentors need mentors. And it's something that never stops. You always need to be mentored. I have 2 different mentors that I go to on a regular basis to bounce ideas off of and make sure that I still have the best training. And I have to say, it is the greatest use of my time, because I will always be learning and I will always be leading, because I have chosen the path of a leader to help other leaders.
And that is a great point that you brought up about, as far as always being willing to learn. No matter how big you make it, no matter how far you get in life, you should be learning not only from those outside, but from your subordinates as well, because everything is always evolving and changing in the culture of the organization, whatever organization you work for. I don't care if you work for McDonald's, for Dairy Queen, for a grocery store, for gas, for CEO of some executive organization. You should always, you made a very great point. Be willing to learn. Always be willing to learn.
Well, learning is how you lead, because like I said, leaders aren't born. There's no one alive that has ever been popped out into existence who has had the recipe of what it means to be a perfect leader outside of those people who have really established world religions.
Yes.
And those ones are the exception. They are not the rule. So if that's the case, we have to look at what it is that it takes to be an exceptional leader. And to your point, it takes the ability to learn, the ability to listen, and to understand that your responsibility as a leader is to empower others. There's a concept that I have recently stumbled upon, and that one of my coaches has helped me really to understand, is that all leadership is nothing more than self-leadership. And so when you become responsible for yourself as a leader, you set up the way that you want to lead, and you know exactly what the limitations are of your influence.
Yes.
And you work within those limitations. You impact others in a way that lets them want to be leaders as well. It falls to that internal leadership drive within them, because human beings are natural leaders.
Yes.
And it's important to give them the permission to be leaders and to set them up to be leaders in their own right. Now, is everyone gonna be qualified to be the next president of the United States? No. Is everyone going to be qualified to be the next leader of a multi-billion-dollar corporation? No. But at what level are you geared to lead? You could, like you said, you could be the next sorter at Amazon and have the qualities necessary of being a leader, being supportive of those around you. And those are the qualities that really make for a great leader. How do you support? How do you empower? And how do you conduct yourself?
Now, how did you intertwine? You said that sales was your background and your passion. You were good. You started off media. You learned along the way, right? So you came out like the rest of us. We come in and we try to figure, okay, what am I doing? Okay. And typically in any company, you really don't get a lot of good training in the beginning anyway. You learn as you go.
Right.
And either it's for you or it's not, but it became a passion of yours. And so intertwining that leadership, that servant leadership with the sales aspect, you have entrepreneurs out here that are just starting off, or small business owners that actually have the brick and mortar and not just doing it online, because a lot has moved and shifted to the online aspect now, right? I do know that you have a free ebook too, so we're going to get to that as well on your website. But what would you say to the now business owners? I'm not even going to call them a small business owner, because every business is a business, right? What would you do, or what advice would you give to somebody that just got their brick and mortar and they hired their first employee, which is themselves? Yes, you have to do that reflection, but then I decide I want to extend a handout and hire somebody else because I can afford it now. Right. What would you tell to them?
So the best thing that I would see is always understand who is your first line customer.
Okay.
And your first line customer, if you are a solopreneur, is going to be the people that you serve. It's going to be the people that you provide a product or service to. Okay. And understanding what they need is your biggest responsibility. Understanding what they need, how you can reach them, and why they should use you as their source of their solution is key. That is your responsibility. Now, once you've figured that out, and that's not easy, it's a tall order. But once you figure that out and you begin hiring other people, your first line customer becomes the person that you've hired. Oh. That is your first line customer.
I've never heard that before. That's deep.
So now your job is to empower that person to do the job that is going to continue to make you money. How can I help? It should be the most powerful question, the most common question that you ask.
You put me in the mind frame of New Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's where I got that from. Yeah.
Yeah. How can I help? Like, that's my favorite show. So how, and I agree, and I applaud every time I heard that on there, because how can I help is really a big thing. Even as I don't want to be your boss, right? So the government organization that I work for, I literally just came back from a location, right, and got back home like a couple of days ago. But during that, when we first got there, it was chaos because we were replacing people. We didn't really do the left seat, right seat kind of aspect, but everybody in that room was pretty much hand selected, and everybody in that room had never worked together before, not in this capacity, right? Because the organization I work for is very large. So you never really get the same person with you. And if you do, it's a blessing, right? Or a curse if you didn't really get along with them. But it reminds me of the military kind of deal. When you go on deployment, you're always getting, different people or whatever, hands in the pot. But we didn't really even get to introduce ourselves. We got thrown into the fire and it was go. This is what needs to happen. Make it happen now. But the incoming task force lead, that was her position, she stopped in the middle of it and was like, listen, we are all one family, one unit with one goal. We are here to assist survivors, right? And she let it be known up front, there's no dividing. I got my leads that's under me, and I was one of those, right? But we set a tone to where it didn't matter the circumstance. You didn't have to wait on your particular manager or supervisor. I told him, throw up your church finger. One of us is running to you. Because if you have a question while you're on the phone with a survivor, we need to get that done. We're not going to make you wait on your direct chain of command. We're all one team. And I loved it. And when we left there, we were the first team since this program started that ended with 100% across the board. No survivors were left behind.
That's
right?
Amazing.
And that's what you are reminding me. Every time you talk, I'm just thinking back of where I just came from. And it is a very rare thing to where everybody just harmoniously comes together. Everybody was teaching each other. Everybody was, willing to learn, and we made it happen within less than 60 days or 90 days.
So when I was deployed to Afghanistan, we did the left seat, right seat as well, and I was the incoming OIC for an area in Afghanistan, in Western Afghanistan, in Farah, and it was very chaotic. It was like, well, here's what you need to do. Here's everything you need to know. Okay, bye. It's like, whoa, wait a second, and it was the kind of thing where instead of actually being able to learn from others, I had to learn it myself, and that sucked. Yeah. And to your point, the biggest problem is that people focus on the job that's in front of them. That's it. And that's a problem. Because if you're focusing on the job, you're not focusing on the people that do the job. And it's the people that matter the most. And to your boss's credit, the fact that she was able to recognize that caused the momentum in order to get people to say, oh, I'm surrounded by people. And, get to actually want to deal with each other is the most vital thing to do. What do you need? How can I help? And being able to ensure that those who are doing the work have the capacity, have the capability, are empowered to do the job in a way where they feel supported.
And they're not micromanaged. Don't micromanage. Oh my gosh. If you have to micromanage, you need to get a whole new team, or you need to step down because you're not trusting. You have to entrust those people that you have hired, or the organization has hired, or the military threw your way. You can build up anybody if you have the patience and the know-how. Where they say, reach one, teach one. But if you're not giving the point of context, or it's not, oh, this is mine, I can't share. We're not children. Like, share the knowledge, man. So I wholeheartedly agree with you in that aspect. Always.
What's funny is that when you have that sharing mentality, when you are in an environment where everyone is sharing, what begins to happen is you begin to see that there is no lack, that the abundance that exists is astounding. But when you have the mentality of this is mine, you begin to see how quickly your resources diminish.
Yep.
And it's one of the weirdest things that I've ever seen. It doesn't make sense to me still, but I can't deny its power. The more that you are willing to be generous, the more the generosity visits upon you. And it is so much more than if you decide to be self-serving. When you are a person who is of service, the rewards that you reap are tenfold, I guess, but I don't even know if there's a way to actually measure the exponential power that it happens. Is so much more than when you are self-serving, because being self-serving, people recognize that, and those who are self-serving, whether they be a boss, a subordinate, a friend, a partner, a teacher, a parent, whatever it might be, when you have a self-serving mentality, people see that and they withdraw their support. And so now you're actually you're experiencing lack on two fronts. One, because of the diminishing resources that you have, and two, from the lack of replenishment that you're getting from others. And it is no different than when we were in caves hunting furry animals with big pointy sticks, and we had these individuals who were a liability to the tribe, who had to be rejected, had to be ejected out of the tribe, had to be excommunicated, so to speak. And the vulnerability and the weakness that person felt, it was basically a death sentence.
Yeah.
Being in the wild and having absolutely no support, it was a death sentence.
Yeah.
It's because human beings we require each other. We require community in order to survive.
Yeah.
I've identified 3 pillars that survival is based on. The first one is procreation, obviously. The second one is building community, and the third one is developing moral worth. And the building of community is everything that happens to build relationships, to create connections. However, those connections don't mean one iota if you are not doing them in order to define what is the greater good. Doing good is moral worth. And the ability to do good is what creates trust. And that trust is what allows a relationship to blossom. It allows a business relationship, a friendship, a love relationship, a chance encounter, whatever it might be, allows them to grow at an exponential rate in a way that you no longer feel like it's just you and that other person. There is a feeling of connectedness that exists, and that trust, that moral worth that is desired, is what creates that sense that there is no lack. There is an abundance. It's not what I have and what you have. It's what we share.
Yes.
And that trust understands that I trust that you're going to accept me for exactly who I am, and that we're going to build our relationship based on how we can help and serve each other, regardless of where we've come from.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of trust that I'm talking about. And it's the ability to recognize that you're not just someone that's over in Georgia, where I'm in Alberta. We have the opportunity of, I can see that you're my sister, and that I can see that you are someone who has not just something that I can use, but there's a connection that we can share. And because of that connection, there is a sense of kinship that if there was a need, it would be there if necessary. And imagine if there was this same belief, the same behavior, that no matter who you interacted with, you can create that like that. You can create that sense of kinship with whomever you met, and it was always available. It was desired, and it was something that was always returned. Just imagine for a second what things would be like.
How powerful a society could be, or a community could be, if they worked together instead of against each other. Yeah.
And this isn't just something that is a pipe dream or theory. There are people who have done this. Ed Mullally was I don't know if he still is, but he was one of the greatest CEOs of Ford. And he was the one that actually turned Ford around. Before him, Ford stood for Found on Road Dead or Fix or Repair Daily. And
Yes.
it was because of him that he changed the entire landscape of Ford around. He changed the brand so that it became something like a family, because he made sure that no matter what your title was, whether you were a manager or you were just an employee, your voice was heard and your feedback was necessary. And it didn't matter what your idea was or what you had to say, it was important. And because of that, the innovations that they were able to make, the way that they were able to reinvigorate the brand was stellar. Now they're considered one of the best American-made companies in the nation.
I still won't buy a Ford, but I love and admire the way that he turned it around.
And it's because of that sense that being of service. His job as a CEO was to turn the company around and say to people, how can I help? What do you need?
Instead of just saying do,
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And he
but
broke
wasn't it Ford that actually started the 40-hour work week too, though?
I don't know if they started it by not, but I know that Mullally was responsible for making sure that was enforced.
I'm talking about like Henry Ford, like back in the day when it first started. Like
oh God, no! His Henry Ford's ideas for the work week were atrocious. 40-hour work week. Try the 80-hour work week.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know it has something to do with the work week
working conditions.
Yeah. You can't drive people to the ground and expect for them to breathe. You know what I mean? Like in the military, we learn to do less with, learn to do more with less, right? So, and I wasn't really blessed to have like direct chain of command that was any good, right? They didn't care about me per se, because I'm like, how we had that discussion, I was that one that would rub people the wrong way because I asked the questions. I went by the guideline, and you wasn't going to blow smoke up my ass. I didn't care what rank I was. I told him I would be a specialist for life with a sergeant major mentality, right?
Yeah.
But as I got up into like I was that leader no matter what position I was in, even as a specialist, as an E5, back down to a specialist, because yes, I did get busted down one good time for taking up for a soldier. And then it took me like 8 years to get my 5 back, but they always tend to put me in higher ranking positions because they knew that my work ethic, so they loved to hate me and hated to love me, right? So I definitely admire everything that you just said, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just put out there. And I really do believe that a lot of people, there's billions of people on this earth, and I would say about 500 million still needs to learn this mentality and this servant leader mentality, and not the micromanager or the evil witch or whatever you want to call them, right? So what is your website that people can come and tune into to get?
Sure. So my website is called RiseToLead.coach, and it's just a landing page that has an invitation to download my book completely free. It's just a small ebook. It's about 50 pages. And it really boils down the key principles of what creates leadership, and then gives some case studies of how that works in different environments. So it covers 4 key principles, then it goes into 3 case studies, and then it wraps it all up together. So the book that's completely free. If you go to RiseToLead.coach, enter your email and your name, you'll be able to get the download absolutely free.
And if they need you offer extended services like one-on-one coaching?
Yes, so that's why it's an ethical bribe, basically, because when you purchase my book, you also have an opportunity to schedule a one-to-one session with me, and that's going to be about a 30-minute, maybe an hour session, depending on what's needed. And this is to really evaluate people who want to become leaders and who want to improve their leadership game, their leadership and their sales game, because leadership and sales are very closely linked. Whenever you're selling, you are leading. Whenever you're leading, you are getting buy-in, which is sales. So they both go hand in hand. So by learning to be a salesperson who knows how to use ethical manipulation, you're able to get people to buy in to what you are offering and understand why they want to buy in and do it of their own free will. And so that means that they want to support you because they believe in you rather than they've been duped to get something because the conditions were right in that moment for them to say yes.
Like all them fancy products and commercials, and you need this right now. You remember the old infomercials? If you tune in, you can pay 96 cents for 4 months or 10 months, or I think people still have them CDs from back in the day that they never finished paying off.
Yep.
But you are straight to the point. So, and I love it. I admire it. Now I got to go buy it because I'm always intrigued about, tuning my own leadership styles, right? I think I've then gotten to a point to where I know my faults, but I also know where to ask. If I don't know the answer, I know where to go get the answer, or I'm going to find out how to get the answer, right? So that is extremely phenomenal, and I will definitely be buying the book now because now I'm nosy. I love to learn, right? And if it wasn't so crunch time for us to really say, hey, you want to do it? You want to do it? All right, this is the time we're doing it. I would have bought it already and read it before we even got the interview. So I do thank you, and you will definitely see my email on there for that. And I just, the conversation is a blessing in itself, man. People need to understand. But if they're not looking in the reflection and actually admitting that they need to change for the betterment of who they are and how they present themselves and how they're reaching one and teaching one and how they're going to make those sales. Nobody wants to buy from the grumpy old woman or the grumpy old man that just has an attitude. Right? Nobody wants to do that. So check Jason out and go get the ebook. Hey, go get the ebook because I'm definitely getting it today. As soon as we get off of this interview.
Special price of $3.99. You can't beat it.
You can definitely not beat $3.99, right? So that is phenomenal. And I look forward to future discussions because I really feel like we are going to have future discussions in about a year from now or so, right? I think we definitely are connected. We got too much in common not to be. I think fate made us meet each other at the right time. You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
So is there something that you would like to put out to people before we stop?
So if you want to get a hold of me directly, you can reach me at jason@relatem.com, RELATEM.com. That's my email address. It's not the same as my website at all, but that's because, I had a previous business that I let go of and just kept the email because I had too many perks. So jason@relatem.com. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about anything that's been discussed here. If you want to get the book, go to RiseToLead.coach. And if you want to catch me on Facebook, go to RiseToLead. You'll see my Facebook business page there. Drop me a message. I'll make sure to get back to you. I'm always open to helping people and wanting to connect with others. So don't be a stranger.
Oh, that is phenomenal. You are amazing. You are absolutely a charm. I love it. I love positive attitudes. As much as I cuss and go rampant on sometimes, this is a very breathtaking exhale moment to be able to sit down and speak with you. But until next time, y'all please make sure you go check out Jason Matthews on all his websites. Email him, reach out to him. He is willing to assist you to become that leader that you deserve for yourself and for others around you. Until next time, it's the HERshyt Show. Bye.
Be sure to log on to youtube.com and subscribe to the HERshyt Show at TheHershytShow.